I just finished my video, Ye Old Books, and today I am actually starting a second video, and film it while I got all the makeup on, might as well. This is a collaboration video with Tucker Almengor / Tucker the Reader. What we are doing is a Two Truths and a Lie, but with books. So he suggested 3 books for me to read. 2 of them are good, 1 of them he hates. The goal is for me to read them, see what I think, and try and predict which one is the bad boy. There's these books, they just came in today. And what we got is The Shining by Stephen King. Little Do We Know by Tamara Ireland Stone. And we have This Tender Land by William Krueger. So of these 3 books, I've heard of The Shining, and if I had to give a prediction, I'm gonna say that Tucker probably loves this one, purely because I know he's a huge Stephen King fan, and he knows that I have never ever read a Stephen King book. So what I think is that he would have picked out one of his favorites for me to read. We'll see how right I am on that. Oh, what if he knows that I know that he likes Stephen King and he's faking me out by picking out one of the worst Stephen Kings out there? I honestly don't know. We're gonna have to find out. So judging from purely the description, never read it, never heard of it before, it almost seems like kind of like a romance with a tragic event happening that kind of spurs the enemies back to lovers. Maybe. I know that Tucker loves romance books, and if this one is a romance book, this could be another good one, in all honesty, because he is such a huge fan, and I think this one would probably be a good one. So that leaves me with This Tender Land, and this one is a period piece. I think this is going to be the bad one, purely because I don't think Tucker generally likes too much historical books, and it feels like it could be one of those books that where it's just like, what is happening? You're just trying to write a poignant novel. So, okay, this is gonna be my prediction. These 2 are the good ones. This one is the bad one. I will be reading these books throughout the week. I'll be checking in with you all and we'll see how it goes. My fingers are crossed. I think I have a pretty good set for reasoning for this one. Okay, so jumping into Little Did We Know, turns out my initial impressions about the book completely off base. It actually follows 2 best friends, well actually ex-best friends. They've been best friends ever since they were itty bitty babies. However, now they won't talk, they won't do anything together. And we slowly find out the reasons behind that. One of them is really religious and kind of looks down on her friend for having a boyfriend. The other friend thinks that her religious one is just too uptight. But we know that that's not the core issue, and it's kind of revealed slowly but surely throughout the book. This book tackles what it means for friendships to change over time, how your religious views grow, develop, and change as well. I think my initial assessment of this one is pretty spot on. This is not like a typical sweep you off your feet romance, and it's a little bit more serious than a typical young adult book. But at the same time, I think the story is solid enough that it's going to be one of Tucker's good books. Okay, so moving on to The Shining, I ended up not being able to film an intro to that purely because the events that happened when I was listening to it completely derailed my plans. So the next day, I ended up taking Squamish for a super long walk. This boy is a powerhouse. He loves his long walks, he loves sniffing, he loves peeing, etc. I had gotten an audiobook of The Shining from the library, and I figured, why not? So we're listening to that. Squamish runs over to the curb, and at first I'm like, what are you doing, Bug? And then I realized a baby squirrel had fallen out of the tree. I run back to the house, I get him a little towel to set him up, And from there, my morning is completely derailed. But at the same time, I feel like it was totally worth it. So a lot has happened since I checked in. A quick recap in case I didn't do that earlier. I found a baby squirrel when I was walking my dog this morning. He didn't seem to be injured. Limbs were moving fine, toes were moving fine. When I picked him up, he didn't squeak or anything like that. So I looked it up online. I talked to a few places and they told me to put him in a box and essentially just hope that his mom comes back. After about 4 hours, it was clear that his mom wasn't coming back. I called the rehab places again just to double check, and they all said like after 2 hours, really, you can assume that the mom's not coming back. So then I started making some calls, and not a single place would take them. They were all either full, they were at capacity, or they had reduced capacity because of COVID and they weren't taking mammals. So, I kept calling. I cried a little bit because I stress cry. And I found a place, and it took about an hour and a half of driving, and we now have dropped off the little squirrel. I asked the wildlife rehab person what she thought of him. She said other than being a little bit dehydrated, he's fine. He'll be okay. I didn't film any of that just because it felt kind of weird, and honestly, like my focus was on making sure that he would be okay. So yeah, that's it. We dropped him off and now I gotta drive back. This is not how I expected the day to go, but I am really happy that he's okay. Like really happy. Okay, I'm gonna check in later. One nice thing about this though is I was able to listen to my audiobook for 1.5 hours there and 1.5 hours back. Alright, so here the little guy and I just reached the rehab place. I was listening to my audiobook the entire time on earbuds because I didn't want to disturb the little guy, though it made no difference to him. He just slept the entire time right next to his warm rice sock. I did enjoy the time spent listening to the audiobook. If you don't know, The Shining is a ghost story about a family who ends up spending the entire winter in an isolated mountainside hotel, and it's just slowly creepy things were happening. As far as the little squirrel, I ended up texting the rehab place a few days later because I just wanted to check on him. She said that he got the fluids, he was doing fine, and that he'll be released once he's old enough to live on his own. So all in all, it was a happy ending and an interesting adventure throughout. Oh, and I named him Cheeto. Alright, so now we are on to the third part of the video, this Tender Land. Now this one is the historical book. It focuses on 4 orphans as they are trying to find their home. And they just kind of journey across America away from cruelty and hopefully towards love. Now this is one that I was listening to as well, and I had gotten it from the library, and I'm really starting to question why I bought the books in the first place. If all I was going to do was just get them from the library, I guess I literally bought the books to hold at the beginning of the video. That makes a great financial decision, doesn't it? Anyway, I am driving and I will fill you in shortly on where the adventure is. Hint, it involves Squamish and childhood dreams. So, I finally got to Menards, listening to this Tender Land the entire time. Kind of mixy feelings, to be honest. Like, I liked the adventure aspects, but it also felt a little bit forced, if that makes sense. It felt like the author had a message and he was going to deliver it today. Anyway, so went into the Menards. I knew that they had about 140 1x6 by 4 foot dog-eared cedar pickets, which is what I needed to finish the fence for Squamish. Very excited to get this done. I don't know, there's something about being able to let the little guy loose in the yard that is just driving me. Speaking of driving though, it took about an hour and a half to get to this Menards. Yesterday, we went 2.5 hours to a Menards all the way in Minnesota to pick up the first batch, but we have a itty bitty car. You can see like the back's down ready for cedar pickets. If you notice though, there's no pickets. So when I got there, apparently someone just put the wrong number in online. So of 140, they had 14. Even though I called ahead to check, I didn't call and make someone physically go out to the yard to check. And because of that, I am now driving an hour and a half back. Yeah, so I don't know, life doesn't work out the way you want it to sometimes, but I guess there's silver lining. At least I got to listen to the audiobook. So I guess it's something. And I've got scheduled to talk with Tucker my theories about the 2 truths and a lie. Kind of have a few ideas, and then once I finish this Tenderland, I'm gonna figure out for sure. Like, I'm gonna write down what my official theories are, and we'll just check it with Tucker and see what he says.
Yes.
Okay.
On my end, I see me and I see you, so I think it's good.
I see me and I see you. Okay, so hi. This has been a lot of internet struggles today, but we got connected. We're gonna figure out the 2 truths and a lie, whether or not I guessed them right. The one I'm most confident about is The Shining. I think this is a good one. I think this is one of your no.
No, that was the bad one. Yeah.
I was so confident. I have like no.
I know that one. I was like, I know this one will trick her because I love Stephen King and I love horror novels. The thing is, this was my first Stephen King. It's totally different from most. Well, not totally, but like it has a different feel. It's a little more like it's not as much obvious like scary and jump scares and stuff. It goes a little deeper than that. But I also read it when I was 13 or 12. So it did go a little bit over my head. I reread it too. And even then I was like, I see what people like in this. And I get the appeal. But I personally, it's not my style. But it was definitely a trick one.
You got me. You got me so bad. So the reason why I thought you liked this one is obviously you love Stephen King. It's a very atmospheric story. It's a very slow build. And then like we get that crescendo at the end. I thought that was what you loved.
Mm-hmm.
Well, that's the bad one. So that means these 2 are the goods. I thought this one was going to be your bad one.
Mm-hmm. That was also a trick.
You're so
I know. I was like, this is the perfect combination of books because I generally don't like historical fiction. But anyway, on Goodreads, literally, I'm not joking, every single one of my friends, and I think it was maybe around 20, had all given it 5 stars. And I was like, wow, if it's 5 stars from all of my friends, it must be at least pretty good.
I thought it was an okay book. I liked it less than Stephen King. So that's also a reason why I thought that this was your bad. All right, and then this one was also a good then. Process of elimination. I thought this one was, I think it was pretty good. I feel like I have a hard time describing. There's something about it I just didn't quite, then kept it from being a 5-star read for me. I think I just kind of got annoyed at the characters and their decisions a little bit too much. But why is this one of your goods?
Because I read it, 2019 maybe? I think it was 2019. So I've changed so much in the past year, so I might feel differently. But okay, so it was interesting. I found it in the library, and this was when I was 13 or 14, and my mom was still kind of screening the books I read because she didn't want anything super inappropriate to get into my mind, and that kind of backfired. But this was one of the books I managed to sneak by her, and I read until the point that she kissed, which spoilers for Little Do We Know by Tamara Irelandstone, I believe her name is. The point where she kissed, is it the youth pastor? No, not the youth pastor. The guy in charge of tech, I think it was.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, and that part was like, I don't really feel comfortable with that because it was like
that's another thing that kept it from being 5 stars. I'm like,
at that point, 12-year-old me freaked out and was like, this is evil in my mind. So I returned it to the library. And then years later, 2019, 2 years ish later, I was like, I want to reread this and I reread it and it was really good. I loved the themes of friendship. The way they dealt with religion and church and stuff was totally different than the way I grew up with it. But I enjoyed it. What were your ratings for the books out of 5 stars?
I'd say this one ended up being 4. I think part of the reason why I kept it from being a 5 is it was a really slow build for me. And then also, like, I saw the movie first, and I didn't realize how much the movie would affect how I enjoyed this book. Because I was always just so confused by this movie. I was just like, what is happening? And then when I read the book, I'm constantly trying to piece together where the movie came in. So then that distracted me from enjoying it. I say this one's, I would say, is 3.5. I do like windy journeys, but it felt like the evil characters were just like capital E, evil. And I wanted a little bit more dimension from it.
Mm-hmm.
And I would give this one a 4 stars again. Maybe leaning a little towards 4.5. I do think like the relationship, I know he's only like a year or 2 older than her, but just being in that teacher position, I'm like, oh no, 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 no.
Yeah, it was like not an abuse of power per se, but it was not a good dynamic.
It could very easily become one, is what I kind of felt from it. I do like how they did religion in this one, because I feel like a lot of times, anytime you hit religion in a book, it's like here's the religion, and
Yeah, it's kind of
this one felt
like
more
exaggerated.
Yeah. Anyway, thank you so much. Kind of running low on battery for my laptop here, so I'm gonna have to cut it kind of soonish.
No worries. Bye.
Right. Bye. That is my 2 Truths and a Lie with Tucker Almengor. Thank you so much for watching, and happy reading. Bye.